Up next, we have another exciting speaker session on the topic, the art and science of motivation, how to rekindle the fire in the belly for continuous innovation. To deliver words of wisdom on this, I would like to call on the stage Maya Madkour. Maya is a dynamic professional speaker specializing in well-being, peak performance, and entrepreneurship. Please come to the stage, Maya.
Lovely intro. So use this mic. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Quick question. Clicker? Thank you. All right, how's everybody doing today? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that works. All right. So just a quick introduction about myself. I am a positive psychologist, published author, and soon-to-be podcast host. I am obsessed with all things motivation and well-being. I just have a firm belief that we all have a special gift that we're born with, sort of given to us by God. It's our birthright, and I think it's our job to try to discover what that gift is, find out what really resides within, and then start fanning those flames until they become this beautiful, gorgeous light that we can share with the world. And I think we all have that. It's not a select few. It's not a few chosen people that get to experience this. I think it's in each and every one of us. It's an innate ability. So a little bit about me. I'm a recent MAPCP graduate. My first master's was in applied sociology from the University of Texas at Dallas. My second master's, which I recently got, was in applied positive psychology and coaching psychology, which I pursued to launch my speaking career. It's all about positive psychology is the study of optimal human functioning. It represents sort of distancing ourselves from the traditional take on psychology, which was like the disease model and disorders and how to fix us, to a shift to what makes us unique, what makes us special, what makes us powerful, what makes us human. And it's such a beautiful discipline. I encourage all of you to at least dabble in it every now and then. Sociologist, I will soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, pursue a PhD in DBA. I'm a professional speaker. It's my passion. I know that's why I'm here on planet Earth. It's to speak, it's to motivate and to inspire, and I hope to do that with you guys today. Entrepreneur, I've always been an entrepreneur. I am a firm believer that entrepreneurship can change the world. It is a beautiful experience. I've launched a couple of agencies, shut them down again due to COVID, but it has been an invaluable experience to me. And I think once you get a glimpse of entrepreneurship, it's almost addictive. It's like you can't stop. It's incredible. Passionate about all things motivation and well-being, of course. And I'm looking forward to a heart-to-heart conversation. I hope I'm able to go through the presentation pretty fast so we can actually go over some questions on these incredible topics that we have today. Where do I direct the clicker, you guys? I'm not a technical person. Need help. I did it. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So why is motivation important? What is motivation, right? So just a sec. I feel like we need to go back one. Okay, what is motivation? Yeah, I knew I was missing one. So motivation, we've all heard of that term before. It's not a novel term. We're all familiar with motivation. But how can you harness that power within that resides in each and every one of us to achieve your dreams? That is ultimately the goal. If you're able to do that, and if you're able to find out why you're here, what your gift is, you literally become unstoppable. So that is, to me, why motivation is so powerful. It's essentially like you start creating these tidal waves from within, and understanding motivation can help you accomplish that. So motivation essentially is the driving force behind human actions. It's why a person does something. Once you figure out your why, obviously Simon Sinek, we're all familiar with the great sort of British American speaker Simon Sinek, and he talks about optimism, talks about, start with why. If you're able to decipher your why and understand what drives you, what motivates you, you're going to be able to achieve anything that you set your mind and heart to. It really, really is that simple, right? So motivation is how you get going, right? So I want to get from A to B. That's motivation. It's the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors, right? Simply put. And motivation is not just a cognitive process, it's an emotional process, it's a visceral process, it's a somatic process. It takes place on the body level. You can feel it when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really into this. And just a quick tip on days when you're running a little low on the M word, what you need to do is just get your body moving, like get off the couch. Start doing chores, and then you're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. So motivation takes place on the physical level, right? So motivation includes the biological, emotional, social, and cognitive forces that activate human behavior, right? Simply put. All right. So why is motivation important? Imagine just for a moment that if you are able to harness the power of your own mind and body, that to me why motivation is really, really powerful. If you're able to control yourself and to harness the power that you have within to be able to get from A to B, wherever that B is, right? And our goals change over time, our aspirations change over time. You may want to do one thing today, another thing tomorrow, but again, why motivation blows my mind every single time and why I want to change my last name to motivation is that I think it takes enormous self-discipline and enormous self-control, and it takes a great degree of self-efficacy to be able to control and harness the power of your mind and body to accomplish what you want to do. If you're able to do that, again, you become unstoppable. So understanding motivation, in a nutshell, helps you increase your efficiency. Who wouldn't want that? It drives you to take action, which is essentially what it's all about, because we can dream all day and daydream all day, but action is the buzzword. Action is what gets the job done. It helps you avoid unhealthy or maladaptive behaviors such as risk-taking and addiction. Helps you feel more in control of your life. Again, why I love it so much. You can always tell when somebody's in control of their life and when others are not. There's nothing wrong with not being in control of your life, but again, imagine how powerful that would be once you are able to take charge of your life. It's a completely different experience. It improves your overall well-being and happiness, right? Which is, again, the goal. There's 3 elements to motivation, and they're all equally important, right? So you need all 3 to make it, right, essentially, right? So activation is the first, and then persistence, and then you have intensity. So activation is the decision to initiate a behavior. Like, I've watched this talk, I'm so pumped, I'm really inspired, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna conquer the world, oh my gosh, I'm ready. So that's activation. It's like that initial push to actually start getting things done. That is activation, right? So it's the decision to initiate a behavior, right? That's the first step. And then you need persistence as you're going along the way. So it's activation, as you can probably tell, is not enough. It's not gonna do the trick. You need persistence. So it's activation and then persistence, because again, the process may take time and we need to be okay with that. So persistence is the continued effort towards a goal despite obstacles, which will bring me to the next topic of grit, but once we get to that slide. Intensity is the concentration and vigor that goes into pursuing a goal. So again, you need activation, you need to start pursuing that goal. You need persistence, where you fall 7 times, get up 8. It's okay if there are hurdles, don't let them stop you, keep going. And then intensity is the concentration and vigor that goes into pursuing a goal. We need all 3, okay? So I want to slow down a bit and talk about grit, because grit is very, very powerful. Regardless of the line of work that you're in, you could be an engineer, you could be an academic, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be whatever. Without grit, we can get very little done. Grit is a very, very powerful concept, championed by Professor Angela Duckworth out of University of Pennsylvania. She wrote a New York Times bestselling book on grit, and it's all about the combination of passion and perseverance. Think about a world where everybody's gritty, and think about the things that we're going to be able to accomplish once we start adopting a grittier attitude. It's almost like the universe listens to what you're saying, and it's like, okay, you're gritty, let me provide you with more, let me give you more, let me test you a little bit more, but then you pass those tests and then you get more. So grit is passion and perseverance for long-term and meaningful goals, right? It's a long-term process. Again, nothing worthwhile takes place overnight, so we need to practice a little bit. We need to be gritty. So what is the missing P, you think? There's a P there that's missing. What do you think it is? Oh, I love that. Purpose is wonderful. I love that. What else? What's another P? Passion, absolutely. It's missing though. What's the missing P? Persistence, It's similar to perseverance and persistence. It is a virtue. Patience, thank you. Yes, there you go. Yes. So patience, perseverance, persistence, passion, all those P words are wonderful. That's how you have more grit. That's how you get more grit, right? So both combined are more important than innate talent. Think of all, again, the talented people that are born with these incredible innate talents that do not practice grit, and how that may stunt their growth. That may, they get too comfortable, they're at home in their comfort zone, and they do not get to accomplish what they were meant to accomplish just because of a little thing called grit. Okay? So grit is the ability to persist in something you feel passionate about and persevere when you face obstacles. Because I was on a panel this morning, and I think one of the major, on mentorship, and we were talking about like what is the major takeaway that we've all learned from the mentors that we have worked with. And I think by far the greatest sort of lesson that I've learned from everybody that has mentored me and the people that I look up to is the ability to, is the ability to stand back up again when life knocks you down, right? I got knocked down, but I get up again, right? It's the ability to bounce back. It's the ability to be resilient. That is absolute magic. And I think if we're all able to cultivate that, I think it makes a huge difference in terms of what we're able to accomplish in life. So that's grit. So grit sounds like a lot of fun, but how can we get more grit in our lives? How can we become grittier? How can we get grittier? So just a couple tips on how to have more grit or how to be grittier is number one, clarify your goals, know your why, have a vision, know where you're going. That makes all the difference. I think, and I've delivered a similar keynote to this when I was in Dubai for the previous MORE conference, and we were talking about the importance of having vision, right? Without vision, we essentially perish, right? So vision is the idea of knowing where you're going, having purpose, having passion, having perseverance, having grit, having resilience, and it's knowing where you're going. It provides you with a roadmap that allows you to keep going despite life's hurdles, despite the setbacks, despite the disappointments, because they're going to be there. It's just a part of the process. It's a part of the testing process that we're all subjected to. And I think in many times what really, really makes a difference between people who end up making it and people who do not is the ability to be resilient and cultivate that inner desire to keep going no matter what. So clarifying your goals is really critical. Having vision is what I would add to that. Discover your interests. And I think all of us are sort of old enough to know what our interests are. If not, one way to do it is maybe experiment a little bit, like in your 20s, just experiment, like dabble, different jobs, different internships, till you figure out what you're here to do, till you figure out what your true calling is. And once you discover that, then just become gritty about it, adopt a gritty attitude about it. Sounds really simple, but it's powerful. Practice deliberately, and that's a little bit about trial and error, how sometimes you may need to, try this, try that, and then you're like, no, that's not for me. Okay, let me try this. Okay, that's a bit closer, getting warmer until you actually discover what your purpose is. Know your purpose, your why. Really, really powerful. Practice optimistic self-talk. So self-talk, as you are all aware, is the sort of the inner monologue that we all have on a daily basis. We all live in our heads. It's our thoughts. We have recurring thoughts on a daily basis, the majority of which are, repetitive, just this constant, buzz of thoughts, endless thoughts that are repetitive, and many of which do not serve us. So, do yourself a favor and practice optimistic self-talk. Talk to yourself like you talk to your best friend, be kind and gentle to yourself, and just cut yourself some slack every now and then. Okay? Join a gritty culture. There's the saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. We are heavily, heavily, heavily impacted by the people that we spend time with. You are your income is the income of your 5 closest friends. So this stuff is really true. So make sure that you're a part of a gritty culture and a culture of people that you look up to so that you may one day join their ranks. And vow to never give up. It's a big one. All right, so motivation is a super huge concept. I got my master's for my recent master's degree. My dissertation was on self-determination theory, which is just one small, minute, tiny theory on motivation from a positive psychology perspective. But there are so many different ways that we can understand and tackle the concept of motivation. So my master's dissertation was on self-determination theory, and how people can achieve the goal of motivation. And self-determination theory is really, really interesting. I basically interviewed entrepreneurs based in the US, the UAE, and Egypt, where I'm from, and basically asked them, how do they find motivation? How do they keep going? And the answers were unanimous. So it's quite incredible. This theory has been proven before, so this was not any earth-shattering work, but it was earth-shattering to me at least, that regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of line of work, regardless of country of origin, regardless of anything at all, most people find motivation and achieve motivation and experience that unique form of well-being based on those 3 things that I'm gonna share with you right now. You ready? So actually, let me skip to that. So self-determination theory outlines 3 conditions for intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation, in a nutshell, is motivation from within, right? Intrinsic motivation is the motivation that we're all looking for. It's the type to where you do your job for free kind of thing. I love this so much, I can do this for free. I don't care about, the income, I don't care about the fame, don't care about the fortune. I love it so much, I can do it for free. That's intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation, external motivation, is when we're motivated by fame, fortune, affluence, that kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with extrinsic motivation, and it's quite normal to be motivated by both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, but from a positive psychology well-being perspective, most recommend intrinsic. So how can you get your hands on that, coveted pie of intrinsic motivation? You need 3 things. What are the conditions that you're looking for? So number 1 is autonomy, and it makes sense, like the people that I've interviewed are all entrepreneurs, all self-employed. So autonomy is this, it's the freedom of external constraints. I think deep down, regardless of culture, regardless of faith, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of line of work, we as human beings have this innate, deep desire to experience autonomy. Nobody likes getting told what to do. Nobody likes, receiving orders, do this, do that. It's against our human nature. So that's the first condition that you need to experience self-determination theory, and to experience that unique form of motivation is autonomy. And you get that by being an entrepreneur, among other avenues. The second type is competence. It's the need to feel capable. And that really struck me and was unanimous across the board of people that I've interviewed, that they're all very, very confident when it comes to their line of work. They're like, I'm very good at what I do. I'm a global speaker. I am, excellent. I'm amazing. They did not shy away from sort of praising themselves. And I found that to be really interesting. So we all, again, have a deep desire to feel competent, to feel capable, to feel like we're making a contribution. And then that's the second condition that you need for self-determination theory, or this unique form of motivation. And then third is relatedness, right? And it's the need to feel involved with others. It's the need to feel like you're making a contribution. It's the need to feel like you're part of a community. It's essentially based on the fact that we're all social creatures by nature. We all crave attention. We all crave validation, and that's essentially what relatedness is all about. And again, this was unanimous, despite of, regardless of culture, regardless of gender, regardless of all of that. I figured my initial sort of assumption conducting this research was like, okay, maybe there's going to be a little bit of a disparity between individualistic societies like in the West compared to collectivistic societies like in the East. But it turns out that we're all looking for relatedness. We all crave relatedness. We all need relationships in our lives, and we all need social, emotional support to feel like we are on the right track. All right, so we've already covered that, so we can skip that slide. All right, so this I found to be really, really interesting. This is, again, based on research. So this is just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're running low on extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. There are days where you're going to be running low on both, or may run low on both. So there's family motivation. So family motivation is when you're motivated by the desire to provide for your loved ones, and this is regardless of gender, right? This is, we all have that. So it's a third source of motivation when intrinsic and extrinsic motivation fall short. So just remember this on the days when you're like, I can't stand this. So it applies to mundane tasks without any rewards for good performance. This is based on research conducted on factory workers that were motivated despite it all. Rain or shine, they made it to work. They got good pay, they got bad pay, they made it to work. They were there to provide for their families. So family motivation is another really powerful way to find that inner fire in the belly. Family can serve as both an intrinsic and extrinsic motivator. People that want, to dress their kids in designer brands, that's extrinsic motivation. People that want to provide a better lifestyle for their kids, that may be intrinsic motivation. All right, we have 5 minutes left. Let me try to cover self-discipline in 5 minutes. That's a gargantuan feat, but let's try. So we can't talk about motivation without covering self-discipline. Self-discipline is the route to take. It is the engine. So we're talking about fire in the belly. Self-discipline is the engine that drives it all. Self-discipline is the spark that creates the fire in the belly. You cannot have motivation without self-discipline. And I see a lot of social media posts that talk about how motivation doesn't last. And it kind of hurts my feelings because I feel like I'm almost synonymous with the word motivation now. It's like my talks motivation, that's my brand. So motivation can last and does last and will last. And as Zig Ziglar said, motivation is just like bathing. You need to sort of renew your intentions every day like you bathe every day, right? But self-discipline is the vehicle that we use to remain and stay motivated. You could be the Picasso of your time, you could be the Michelangelo of your time, you could be the most incredible mathematician, the Galileo of your time, you could be the most incredible person that has ever lived in your time. But you wouldn't know that without the proper dose of self-discipline. You need self-discipline to, again, get you from A to B and to help you fulfill your ultimate potential and to flourish, which is, again, what positive psychology is all about. Positive psychology is the study of optimal human functioning, and it's the scientific evidence-based take on how we can achieve our full potential, right? So self-discipline is the ticket. Self-discipline is the key. So what is self-discipline? It's the ability to override a habitual or motivated response, resisting short-term temptations. And if you just take a moment to think about all the ultra-successful people that you know, chances are they have an enormous amount of self-discipline. They enjoy doing what they're doing. They do it because they are motivated to do it. They do it because they have a vision. They do it because they're propelled. They do it because they know that they're on the right track. They do it because they have trained themselves well enough to understand that without self-discipline, that they're just wasting their potential. And what a great waste that would be. I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, influencer. Pretty sure most of you have heard of him. And one of his most incredible podcast episodes was with Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how the number one regret people have on their deathbeds is not pursuing their dreams, is not going after their purpose, not going after what they're passionate about, not being motivated enough and not being disciplined enough to do what they were essentially brought here to do. So self-discipline is self-discipline to me is a form of self-love. If you love yourself enough, it's a form of self-love, it's a form of self-respect. It's respecting your sort of God-given innate talent, and without it, there will be some major regrets down the road. So why do that, right? So it's the process by which we seek to have control over our thoughts, feelings, and impulses. And just like everything else, self-discipline is a muscle, right? So okay, I'm gonna cut back, I'm not gonna have the brownies today, and then tomorrow you end up eating a salad, and then the day after you go to the gym. It's a muscle, and you can work it out, you can cultivate it, and you can hone it over time. So the technical definition is effortful regulation of the self by the self. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll wait till the Q&A session. So why is self-discipline important, apart from all the other reasons that I've shared? It impacts academic success, it obviously impacts entrepreneurial success, impacts career success, impacts personal success, impacts all forms of success, right? more than cognitive intelligence. How many times have we seen people that we went to school with that were not necessarily super bright, but because they were very disciplined and because they did the work and because they, I would pull all-nighters when I was getting my master's almost every night. I'm not asking people to do that, but, I had the discipline to do that, and it, I benefited from that. So self-discipline can be sort of a shortcut to achieving your dreams, and it can sometimes be more important than cognitive intelligence. Reduced risk of obesity, lower likelihood of engaging in riskier criminal behaviors, greater occupational and career achievement in terms of income and job satisfaction, which makes sense. We can skip that. I want to bring it all together in 20 seconds. Let's see if we can do that. So how do we do that? You set SMART goals. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with SMART goals. Keep it simple. Like I said, self-discipline is a muscle, and you just start it by taking small baby steps until they become great leaps. Remember your why, intrinsic motivation. And motivation is how you get going. Discipline is how you keep going. Take baby steps, and then that helps you develop a new baseline. And you, am I over time? Feel free to interrupt me. And if you take baby steps, you develop a new baseline, and then you increase your self-efficacy, right? Your confidence goes up. And my last tip is prioritize, set 3 main deliverables per day, and watch yourself soar. That's my LinkedIn. Feel free to add me. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you. Thank you. Clicker. Thank you so much. Thank you.